Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Rough Riders. Welcome, guests. Yes, fatherhood at last. It took me 50 years to create a child, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Not an accident. When she was born, we went to a midwife. We actually went through birthing class and went to a midwife, and it was a 40-hour labor. Wow. I got to be present. This is the blessings of our time. The fathers are in the room now as babies are born. And I was glad to be there. Because when little Elizabeth slipped out like a fish, with big wide eyes, looking right at me, I thought she was recognizing me. I felt like we knew each other already. Huh. We had a reunion of the birthing class, and there were about 10 newborns, 10 little babies, less than 6 weeks old. And we lined them up on the sofa, and we parents are standing back with our Instamatics taking pictures of them, and there they are all lined up like a row of cantaloupes that had suddenly sprouted arms and legs. And most of them were just, sort of wobbling there in babyland. But one little guy was unhappy and started yelling and screaming. Right next to my daughter, Elizabeth. Elizabeth focused on him, reached over, and began to stroke his arm. Less than 6 weeks old. I was rightfully proud, I think. I thought, wow, that kind of empathy, that kind of other awareness in a child that young has got to be unusual. I think she was born caring. Whoa. And that little episode was an indication of the personality she developed. She was brave from the very beginning, too. She liked to straighten her little legs, even, at a few weeks old. She would stand up, support herself with the coffee table or on the back of the couch. So eventually, we worked out a little trick where I would put both her feet in my hand, and I could do the balancing, and she would stand up, terrified all the women in the room. But she loved it. Came the day when we moved her out of the crib and into a big girl bed. Her room was right across the hall from ours. We had a monitor over there so we could attend to any upsets that were going on. And the first morning after the big girl bed was installed, I was sleeping peacefully, and suddenly I'm aware of something in the dark, and I open my eyes, and there's little Betsy, a shadowy figure standing right next to bed. She says, "Wake up, Dada, it's a new day." Because she was able to get up, she had trotted over to the window, opened the curtains a little bit, and saw the beginnings of sunrise. And for the next week or 10 days, every morning, we would hear her on the monitor. "Oh, it happened again. What a surprise. Wake up, Dada, it's a new day." As far as I was concerned, I had my money's worth right there. And when you think about it, each of us began with that kind of wonder, that kind of, joy. Each new sunrise. When's the last time you felt joy at the sunrise? I can practically name the day. Well, she grew and became, it was such fun to watch her little mind develop. For instance, her favorite movie was, we had a VCR, of course, we would put in the tape of Walt Disney's Cinderella. So once my wife, Peggy, and I are in the kitchen making dinner, and Cinderella's going on in the living room, and we hear the final music, zippity-doo-dah, or whatever it was, you know, and suddenly, here's little Betsy, I was calling her Betsy at that time, here's little Betsy running in and saying, "The shoe fit! The shoe fit!" Now she had watched that movie 50 times. Whatever she was paying attention to before, the singing mice and the pumpkin and all that stuff, you know, but suddenly the plot, boom, hey, I understand what's going on. It was such a thrill to see that little mind develop, catch on. You know, I don't think I would have been half as appreciative if I had been a father in my 20s as I was supposed to do. And when we did get pregnant, I say we got pregnant, but the baby was coming. My brother, who was a father of 2 and stepfather of 3, called me up and said, "How old are you going to be when that kid turns 13? I said, "Well, part of me is going to be 13. And that's exactly how it worked out. When she was still very little, maybe 4, Peggy and I, our relationship began to show some tatters and fraying at the edges. And we were having a fight one day in the living room, and I could hear Elizabeth, Betsy, outside on the deck. And I said, "Wait, let's listen to what she said." And she was out there on the deck marching up and down saying, "Work it out! Work it out!"
Whoa.
Now, right. Whoa. There's a 4-year-old shrink in the making. Wow. But it didn't stop with that. When she was 11, 12, she and I had a little contretemps about something. I don't remember what. She got all mad in a huff and stamped out of the room, slammed the door. A few minutes later, she came back in and says, "Sorry, Dad, hormones." So that's only like the first half of her life. And I'm already as proud of her as I've ever been of anything I've ever accomplished. And I don't get credit for that either. I mean, she created her own personality. She just was who she was from the get-go. There was no way to teach her any of this. There was no way to teach her how to run around the house in joy and say, "I'm made of energy!" Or to play the Hunchback of Notre Dame, you know, and sanctuary, sanctuary. And she would, act it out for us. She would say, "I love my life." And so did we all. Mr. Toastmaster.
Woo!